into the process of making biodiesel, I think it's important that we go over just some basic, really very basic chemistry of how biodiesel is made and how we do the titration. So we're going to go over some just very basic chemistry so that when we're going through the process, you'll understand, the chemistry behind what is happening. So basically, what we want to do, we have our waste vegetable oil that we collected from the restaurants. If you happen to have a press and you want to grow sunflowers or soybeans or canola and press the oil, you can use fresh vegetable oil. But we use waste vegetable oil, and most of the small biodiesel processors use waste vegetable oil. So we're trying to turn an oil product, a waste oil product, into a fuel that we can run in our tractors and our trucks here on the farm. So we're trying to modify the chemical structure of our waste vegetable oils so that it's a fuel that can be used in our trucks without modifying our vehicles or our tractors. Okay? So all oils have triglycerides. They're made of a glycerin backbone with 3 fatty acids attached to the glycerin backbone. Okay? So these are chemically bonded. The fatty acids and the glycerin are chemically bonded together. And so what we're trying to do in the biodiesel process is we're trying to break this chemical bond here from the glycerin and the fatty acids, because the glycerin we cannot use in our fuel systems as they are on our trucks today. We only want to use these fatty acids as our fuel. This is our fuel, and this is our byproduct. So in this whole chemical process, what we're trying to do is break this bond, okay? So our goal is to change and make this molecule thinner. Because right now, as this molecule is bonded together, it's a very, very viscous molecule, very thick oil. You all know what oil looks like and how you fry fish or chicken or whatnot. So that's too thick to run in your fuel system. So you want to break this down and make this less viscous, okay? So what it takes to do that, you have your waste vegetable oil, and we abbreviate that WVO. It's going to take some sort of alcohol. The most commonly used alcohol is methanol. You can use ethanol, but methanol is the preferred alcohol. And there is a ratio that's already been figured out. Anywhere between 20 to 22% of methanol is what you want to use as a relationship to how much oil you have in your processor. They've already done the math on this and the different experiments to find out that this 20 or 22% is exactly a good ratio to whatever amount of waste oil that you have. And the next thing you'll need some sort of catalyst. And what the catalyst does is it enhances the breaking of the bond between the glycerin and the fatty acid. Okay? So we have 2 different kinds of catalysts that we can use. We can use a sodium hydroxide, which is what we use on our farm, or you can use a potassium hydroxide, which is what a lot of people prefer. It just depends on what kind of byproduct you want out of the end process, and we'll talk about byproducts later on in the process. You also need a little bit of heat. The system needs heat and time for mixing. So you need your waste oil product, you need an alcohol, you need a catalyst, and you need heat, and you need time. And all of these things, if they're done correctly, will break the bond here between this glycerin and these fatty acids. So the end process in what you're trying to, your outcome would be, is a glycerin molecule and your free fatty acid molecules that have an alcohol attached to them, okay? So this is your goal. This is what you're trying to produce out of your process. And what we call these are fatty acid methyl esters, and they're abbreviated FAME. The acronym is FAME, F-A-M-E. And so within your tank, after you're processed, and we'll go through the process, what you're going to have is the glycerin, which is very viscous and heavy, is going to be on the bottom of the process tank. And your free fatty acids and methanols are going to be your fuel. It's going to be on the top of the glycerin because it's less viscous than the glycerin. Okay? Now, a few things about why would we make biodiesel, other than the fact that fuel cost is very, very high right now. Biodiesel is 10 times less toxic than table salt, 10 times more, biodegradable than table sugar, And it can reduce the particulates of greenhouse gas like CO2 emissions into our atmosphere. And it's a great lubricant and it has a great flash point for our vehicles. So in today's petroleum diesel, they have reduced the sulfur, which reduces the lubrication. Biodiesel can put the lubrication back into your diesel engine, okay? So now let's talk about titration. Let's talk about what we're going to do next. You have your waste vegetable oil. You're trying to convert this waste vegetable oil into a fuel you can run into your tractor or your truck. So you're trying to chemically break this bond between the glycerin and the fatty acids and turn it into a fuel that you can use. That's our goal. That's what we're trying to do with our byproducts here. So there are a few things that we need to do, or we need to really know about. We know that there's so many grams of sodium hydroxide and so many grams of potassium hydroxide needed to break the bonds from a very clean oil, unused oil. We call that our coefficients, okay? So we use sodium hydroxide on our farm, and you'll see several different coefficients for sodium hydroxide. The one that we use on our farm for the oils that we collect, basically we like to use 5 for our sodium hydroxide coefficient multiplier. And that's an important number because if you don't use the correct coefficient that you know turns 1 liter of good clean oil into this FAM, this fatty acid methyl ester, then your whole process won't work. What you'll make in the end is something that you have to re-titrate and reprocess just to get the fuel that you want. So it's very important. This is a very important step in the whole process. And that if you don't get this step right, you may have to go back and reprocess your batch. So it's very important to get this step right. It's a simple calculation, and we'll go through the calculation, and then we'll actually do a titration to show you what kind of oil we're processing today. So the whole point of the titration is that we want to know how good this waste vegetable oil is that we went and collected from the restaurant. Did they fry and fry and fry and break this oil down to the point where it's not even worthy of making a fuel product out of? Or is it a good restaurant and they only fry a couple of times in their grease and therefore we can use this product as a fuel? So this titration test tells you that, okay? So what we do, we have an unknown amount of fatty acids in our product. We don't know how many fatty acids we have in our oil. That all is determined on how many times the restaurant used the oil. If the restaurant tended to use the oil over and over and over again, then what you're going to have a glycerin backbone, but you may not have 3 fatty acids attached to the glycerin backbone. You may have 1 fatty acid attached to the glycerin backbone, or only 2 fatty acids attached to the glycerin backbone. The more fatty acids you have attached to your glycerin backbone, the better fuel product you're going to make in the end. So if we go to a restaurant and we pick up the oil and we do this titration test, and it tells us in the end that maybe I only have 1 or 2 fatty acids attached to my glycerin backbone, then maybe I don't want to go pick up that oil anymore because that oil's been really, really used. And I cannot reattach, well, I can reattach these fatty acids back to the glycerin, but it's another process. It deals with acid, and it's something that the home brewer just really doesn't need to deal with. So as a home biodiesel brewer, you need to make sure you're getting a good oil source in the front end, and that way you don't have to deal with a lot of chemistry to reconnect these fatty acids to the glycerin backbone. Okay, it can be done, but it's not something that we want to do here on our farm. We want to get a good oil source. So this test will tell me how much acid number is in my oil. What's the acid number in my oil? And then it's going to tell me, this calculation is going to tell me how much of this sodium hydroxide I need to put into my solution to break this chemical bond and release these fatty acids and make me a fatty acid methyl ester that I can use in my trucks and tractors. Okay, so that's basically what this titration is telling me. I have an unknown acid number in my oil. I have a known base structure coefficient that I know takes to turn 1 liter of clean, unused oil into these FAMs, these fatty acid methyl esters. The next thing I'm going to have is I'm going to have some sort of pH indicator that's going to turn the color when I reach that titration point, as in all titrations. And I'm going to have some sort of alcohol as a solution, a neutral solution for this mixture to occur. So basically, our titration process the chemicals that you will need to do your titration is isopropyl alcohol, but it's very important to note that it needs to be 91% or higher on the isopropyl alcohol. So if you go to the drugstore and you buy 70% isopropyl alcohol, your titration may be incorrect because that has too much water in it. 91% or higher on the isopropyl alcohol, that's very important. Then you're going to need a sodium hydroxide solution. This is your catalyst of choice. You can use sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, but you must make a 0.1% solution to do this titration with. You need a pH indicator. We use phenolphthalein, or you can use phenol red. And this is just going to indicate to you when your chemical bond has been broken, okay? And then, of course, you need some of your waste vegetable oil that you're titrating for the process. So basically, all the titration does is it finds the amount of fatty acids in the waste vegetable oil and how much of this lye or this catalyst is needed to neutralize the fatty acids, to break that bond and get these fatty acids out on their own so that I can have some fuel to put in my truck. Okay? So here's the calculation. We'll go over it. You're going to have you're going to have a meal of oil, of waste oil, that you collected out of your process. You know, or through chemistry, we know that I'm going to use this number 5 as my coefficient for sodium hydroxide. That's my base number. And this is going to tell me how many grams of this lye or sodium hydroxide I need to convert 1 liter of my waste vegetable oil into my free fatty acids, okay? Now in processing, we don't really go by liters. We don't really use the metric system. We use gallons and stuff. So we want to convert our liters to gallons, which is just a simple conversion factor. So then this conversion factor is going to tell me how many grams of lye I need in 1 gallon of waste vegetable oil. And then I don't really deal with grams either, so I want to deal with pounds per gallon. So I want to convert my grams into pounds, so I use another coefficient that there's 453.592 grams in 1 pound. I use another coefficient to tell me, okay, how many pounds of this sodium hydroxide is going to be needed in so many gallons of waste oil that I've produced. So that's basically the calculation. We're basically turning liters into gallons and grams into pounds to tell us how many pounds of sodium hydroxide or some sort of lye is needed to convert ever how many gallons that we want to convert today into a fuel fatty acid methyl ester for us to use in our vehicles.